You know, so we had this hot war with Pakistan in May, and it happened, and the nuclear question came up again. And I thought, what better person than you to sort of illuminate a little bit more about Pakistan's nuclear weapons and everything. So you were there on the ground in Pakistan in 2002, 2003. We also saw Pakistan sort of lurch into almost like a civil war with the various terrorists it had propped up in its backyard. Was there ever a fear that these nuclear weapons would fall into terrorist hands?
Yes. When I was stationed in Pakistan in 2002, I was told unofficially that the Pentagon controlled the Pakistani nuclear arsenal. That Musharraf had turned control over to the United States because he was afraid of exactly what you just described. But the Pakistanis in the intervening years, and remember, I was there 23 years ago. Over the last 23 years, the Pakistanis have come to say that is absolutely not true. The United States has nothing to do with the Pakistani nuclear arsenal, that Pakistani generals are the ones that control it. So I don't know if that's true, then I would be very worried about who is in charge politically in Pakistan.
No,
You know, for example, Imran Khan. I can't believe that I forgot his name.
who's in
Um,
jail? A
who's
popular
in
leader who's in
jail,
jail. Yes, yeah,
right? And still wildly popular.
wildly, yeah.
He told us when he was still the prime minister, he said, listen, I've got this political situation here domestically. I'm going to start blaming you for everything. And the ambassador laughed and said, we get blamed for everything anyway, so we don't care. So everything that happened, it was the United States' fault. And it was the US, they turned their backs on us. And the US did this and the US did that. And then they arrested him anyway. So he got a message out to the US government saying, can you help me get out of this? And we went to Jemima Goldschmidt, his whatever her name
Ex-wife.
was,
Yeah.
ex-wife. And she went to Pakistan and asked them if they would release him. And they said no. So, like you, I'm worried about continued disagreement in Pakistani politics that has the potential to spill into the streets because the Pakistanis have a tendency to get themselves spun up
Hmm.
and people die during demonstrations and there are attacks against political figures and assassinations and the country is not known for its transformative leaders making positive decisions. I'll tell you another thing. When Benazir Bhutto was in exile in Dubai,
Hmm.
I went to see her with a senior officer. I went as the note taker, and she lived in this $5 million palace on the Gulf, and we were sitting in the front room, the salon of the house, and we heard a car pull up, and she said her exact words. So help me God, if he came home with another Bentley, I'm going to kill him.
Zardari,
Yeah.
her husband.
And I said to my boss afterwards, she makes $60,000 a year. She lives in a $5 million house and he has a collection of Bentleys. Aren't they ashamed of themselves? Like, how can they go back to Pakistan and look the Pakistani people in the face when their people don't even have shoes and enough food to eat? Like, I understand corruption is a problem there, but that level of corruption?
Yeah.
Come on. Well, those are the kinds of politicians that the Pakistani people have to deal with.
In this war that happened in May, India for the first time escalated it to a level where we had cruise missiles flying into Pakistan with direct hits at
Yes.
the time. And from the Indian side, this constant line is said from the prime minister level up. He says that we call their nuclear bluffs. You said that you were told unofficially that you knew that America knew where the nukes were. Do you think Americans told India that the control of Pakistani nukes also lies with America?
I doubt it. I doubt it because of the vociferousness with which the Pakistanis have come out publicly and said that they control the nukes. But I can tell you definitively
Hmm.
that the State Department was telling both sides, if you're going to fight, fight. Keep it short and keep it non-nuclear. If nuclear weapons are introduced, the whole world is going to change. And so I think there was restraint on both sides. The Pakistanis need to come to a policy conclusion that there's nothing positive for them in
Hmm.
fighting India.
Right.
Nothing, literally nothing good will come of an actual war between India and Pakistan because the Pakistanis will lose.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that. They'll lose. And I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I'm
Okay.
talking just about a conventional war. The Pakistanis will lose.
Right.
And so there's no benefit to constantly provoking the Indians.
Right. Last question on the nuclear issue. I promise I'll move on after that. Uh, okay, let's nix the control part. You doubt that the actual control, but there was a New York Times article written by the New York Times editor at that time for national security that
Yes.
that President Bush had folded in hundreds of millions of dollars in grants to Pakistan to safeguard their nuclear assets. The New York Times knew about this program, but decided to sit on it for a number of months before they finally published it. So even if they don't control it, did they give technology to safeguard it?
Most likely, yes.
And what would that
Yes.
technology
And
be?
that I don't know.
Okay.
It's not my area of expertise, and I couldn't speculate. But I will tell you that the fact that the New York Times sat on the article is a way of confirming its truth.
Hmm.
And what I mean is when one of the big outlets, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Los Angeles Times, or one of the big broadcast news networks, when they come across information like this, it's big and it involves classified information, they always ask the White House to confirm or to deny.
Hmm.
If the information is truly classified and it's sensitive, the National Security Advisor will ask for a meeting. Sometimes the meeting is with the president and the head of the newspaper. Usually it's the National Security Advisor. And they'll say, look, yes, it's true, but it's so sensitive that if you publish it, it will put lives in danger. Almost always, they'll sit on the article until enough time passes that people aren't in danger anymore. The fact that they sat on the article is confirmation that it was true.
Hmm.
Just a couple of months later, in March of 2002, we raided a Lashkar-e-Taiba safe house in Lahore.
Okay.
And in that house, we captured 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba fighters who had with them a copy of the Al Qaeda training manual. And it was the first time analytically that we were able to connect Lashkar-e-Taiba with Al Qaeda. The very first time. I remember receiving a cable from the deputy director of the CIA for intelligence, congratulating us on finding this training manual, saying it was the very first time that we could attach the Pakistani government to Al Qaeda.
What stopped you from going after Pakistan then? You have the first smoking gun of a inextricably linked ISI, because the LET or the JEM, JUD,
Mhm.
the various names that they come up with are
Yes,
essentially ISI proxies propped up by the
yes,
Pakistani government, and now they have a direct link with
correct.
Al Qaeda. Uh,
Yes.
why didn't you ever bring this up?
That was a decision that was made at the White House. And the decision was that the relationship is bigger than India Pakistan, at least temporarily. The relationship, we needed the Pakistanis actually more than they needed us at that point. We were happy to throw money at them. That's what they responded to.
Hmm.
But we really needed them to let us base our drones in Balochistan, for example, have what's called a picket line.
Hmm.
CIA officers all the way up and down the border with Afghanistan
So from Waziristan all the way down to
to
Balochistan.
Balochistan. Mhm.
Wow.
We needed a presence in Peshawar. We needed a presence in Quetta. We needed a presence in Karachi and Lahore. And we needed for them to say yes to everything that we wanted to do.
Hmm.
And so a decision was made at the White House that if we strategically ignore this terrorism problem vis-a-vis India, the relationship would be much easier to negotiate. And so that's what we did. I'll tell you one other thing. Years later, in 2008,
Hmm.
I had left the CIA. I had blown the whistle already, and I was working as a counterterrorism advisor to ABC News, one of the big news networks here in the
Yes, of
United
course.
States. And I got a call saying, "Are you watching the news?" I said, "No." It was the night before Thanksgiving, so it's a major American holiday,
Right.
major holiday. I said, "No, I'm not watching the news." Uh, there's been an enormous terrorist attack in Mumbai. They're attacking hotels, they're attacking Jewish centers, they're attacking this and attacking that. I said, "Oh my God." They said, "Can you come into the studio and talk about this?" I said, "Of course." Everybody else was on vacation because it's the eve of a major holiday.
Yes.
So I jump in the shower, I shave, and as I'm getting dressed, my wife, who was still in the CIA at the time, she said, "You should watch, while you're getting dressed, you should watch what the other networks are saying about this." So I go to CNN. They said, Al Qaeda. I go to Fox, Al Qaeda, MSNBC, it's Al Qaeda. And these are all friends of mine who were saying it. And
Yeah.
I said to my wife, "I don't think this is Al Qaeda." She said, "Wow, you better really be sure of yourself if you're going to put your reputation on the line and tell the entire country that this
Yeah.
is not Al Qaeda." So I drove down to ABC News to the studio
Hmm.
and they wired me up. And I was talking to the reporter in New York. And I said, "Listen, I don't think this is Al Qaeda. I think this is the Pakistani supported Kashmiri groups." I said, "Al Qaeda doesn't care about India. They don't have any problem with the Indians. Their
Hmm.
fight is with us."
Yes.
And he said, "Oh my God." He said, you're going to need to be 100% sure because everybody is saying it's Al Qaeda." And I said, I was in the CIA long enough that I can say that I feel strongly this is not Al Qaeda. And so I went on the air and I was the only person that said, "I believe that these are Pakistani Kashmiri separatist groups supported by the Pakistani ISI."
Right.
And that turned out to be exactly the case, to the
Bingo. Yeah.
point where ABC News made television commercials saying, "ABC News, the Mumbai attacks, we were the only ones that got it right." But
Right.
there was a bigger issue here, bigger story here. And the story was that Pakistan was committing terrorism in
Right.
India, and
You
nobody did anything about it.